Good afternoon or good morning, everybody, depending on what part of the world you're in. You've reached the Roaming Prepper channel. I'm your host, Pete, and thank you for joining me. Today, I want to talk about defensive preparedness during an inflationary period. I'll explain what I mean when we come back, and then let's get into that subject. So once again, thank you for joining me. Don't forget to hit the like or the subscribe button. You want to share it. That's great. It really helps the channel. Right now, they're absolutely crushing all the preparedness channels and a lot of other channels. They've been beating us up on YouTube, the firearms channel, the hunting channels, the outdoors people. I don't know what's going on. Uh, I've actually heard from friends who are a little different politically from me that they've just banned a bunch of kind of left-wingy groups as well. They're just kind of shutting people down, which to me is kind of concerning because it's like, do we not have free speech? I'm not talking about people who say go out and burn things. I'm talking about people who just have an opinion and aren't trying to incite anything. They're just upset about something. So yeah, if you can help us out, always good. But what was I talking about? Defensive preparedness. I spoke about this. This is a concept I came up with about a year and a half ago. I actually wrote a book about it called Defensive Preparedness, and you can get it on Amazon or Kindle. The basic premise is preparedness in a bad environment. When I say environment, not, oh, I have pollution, but an environment, inflationary environment, geopolitical environment, stuff like that. I'll recommend you go catch the book and you can go into the details of how I put that together. However, today I specifically want to talk about one subject, which is financial. We often think in preparedness of, I'm going to prepare food. Great. I want to have jackeries or generators for power and light. Great. Then people will not either focus or they get misled. And I've seen other creators try to mislead people, which I'm not a fan of. It pisses me off. And they wind up running up debt because of reactionary shopping. Now, most of the folks who follow me, you guys are either homesteaders or you've done prepping long enough to kind of know, yeah, I just can't afford that right now. I need to put that off for another day. But some people, especially newer folks, don't know this. And they kind of get, remember COVID, right? They're filling up their cars with toilet paper. And there were some ding dongs putting a tarp in the bed of the pickup truck and filling it with gas, an open tarp with gasoline, and then drove away like that. That's insane. You don't do that. That's how you get killed. Your truck will become a big Molotov cocktail. I mean, but anyway, I guess that's a Darwin Award waiting to happen. In any case, you don't want to be in that crowd. So a few things. One, before you start prepping, and I said this on another live stream, stop and look at what you do today. Take an inventory of what's physically in your house. Now, you might walk your house and go, I don't have a damn thing. That's okay. But you might say, you know what? I have this camping gear. I need more propane, but I have a stove. I have a camping light. I need batteries and I need some propane and I can cook and I have light. Okay, you just checked off 2 boxes right there. Oh, look, I have MREs from a year ago. There you go. Check. You kind of get what I'm saying. Even your fishing gear, your tools, your hand tools, all these things can be repurposed or have function in a SHTF situation, any kind of emergency, be it a hurricane, a flood, or people freaking out in the streets and they're breaking into stuff. All of these things come into play. So inventory what you already have. By understanding what's in your house and what you have available or accessible to you, it's something less that you'd have to go buy, purchase, or barter for. Okay. 2, speaking of barter, if you can trade information or knowledge or something to get that which you need to fill a gap, that's something you don't have to spend money on. So keep in mind, if you happen to be a beekeeper, you have honey, that would be extremely valuable in an emergency, right? The bees do all the work. You just make sure they have flowers and the beehives are safe and you can trade. Now, I'm just using that as an example. Some of you may have chickens, you have eggs. Some of you may live in an apartment, but you're good with electronics, you're good with electricity, you know how to weld, you're a carpenter. Any of these things can be used in an emergency to trade and barter. I need rice. I can fix your door after that guy kicked it in last night, and I'll fix your house and you provide rice. There's my payment, and ta-da, no cash necessary. Now, three, and this one's probably the most important. I dedicate a whole chapter to this in the book, credit. Now, I can't go into everything in a shorter video, but understand how you should and should not use credit. Now, I know there are extenuating circumstances. People get sick, there are car accidents, hospitalizations. You do what you have to do at the end of the day. But if none of those major things are going on, you can use credit cards or use payment systems like Klarna to get bigger purchases without hurting your credit, so long as you are disciplined in your approach. For example, say I want to buy a big Jackery, so I have a solar power and a power generator. You don't buy, and you can't just go out and buy $500, $1,000. That's too much, right? That's a lot of money. Even if you make a lot of money, it's still a lot of money. It's not a joke. So what you do, you say, okay, well, I'm going to use Amazon Pay. It'll break it up into 8. Or I'm going to use Klarna. I'm going to use a credit card. Now, understand, some have interest rates like credit cards. Some don't, like Klarna. However, if you don't pay in time or your checking account has a negative balance and they can't withdraw, you get a penalty. So you have to understand the stipulations with each. But splitting up the payment and being disciplined about paying it back as quickly as possible without putting yourself in trouble somewhere else in your life will allow you to make the big purchases, utilize that equipment, and maybe pay a small amount of interest over, say, 6 months. Where people get hurt with credit cards is, and again, I'm not a financial advisor, I just have to put that disclaimer in there. This is simply my approach to the use of credit and how the credit system works. Again, I have a whole chapter about this in the book, but where people get hurt, if you have, say, 10 grand in credit, and I actually ran these numbers on a calculator in a previous video, and say you pay, I don't know, $5,000 and you pay $500 a month, well, you'll pay it off in about a year, accounting for interest. You do get some interest, but it's gone in a year, and your interest is, a couple of grand, something, or $500, something like that. If you pay the minimum, it takes you 18 years, and you actually pay more interest over that time than you originally used the card for. And that's where people get into that credit trap. So what do? They open another card, pay this one at a lower interest rate. But then they don't close this one. They use this one too. And now you have 2 cards. And then they start going into this negative spiral. And eventually, regardless of whether or not there's an economic collapse, someone's going to want their money. They always want their money. The world is full of governments and mafia who basically act the same way. Don't get in the trap. If you're already in that situation and you're trying to get out, remember, even if you only pay a little bit more per month, it makes a difference. Minimize your debt exposure, but use the credit and or payment systems wisely to get the bigger things you may need. And last but not least, put aside some cash if you can do it. And if you can't do it, remember, food, water, other things, if you can get them in bulk and save money, even if you have to split the bulk purchase with another person, is going to save you money in the long run. Anything you already have at home is something you don't have to buy at the store. Just a few kind of inflation fighting tips. Folks, there's a lot going on, even with the election, regardless of who wins what, the Congress, the Senate, the House of Representatives, the White House. A lot of analysts are saying the same thing. We could hit a recession next year. So folks, be prepared, put yourself in the best position. You guys be good, be safe, God bless. I'll see you on the next video.